For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Maddy Hatchett. How's it going today, Maddy?
It's going well.
Good. How's first off, I want to, before we kind of jump into everything, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. Like we were talking before we jumped on here, I've been trying to trying to figure out when to get you on the podcast for about a year or so. Because I saw when I first moved to Waco, be 2 years in 3 weeks. Woo. So I'd seen you on some of the Facebook groups at that point, and then you started releasing music last year, and I was just like trying to figure out time to get you on. And then I saw your post a couple days ago, and I was like, you know what? I just had an opening. Let's make this work. And so it just seemed to work out like that.
Yeah.
So, but first off, before we kind of jump into your new music video that you just released, what's kind of your background? What got you interested in music? Stuff of that nature.
Yeah. So, I guess like a bit of a long story, but I don't know. I was always like drawn to like doing like generally just like artistic or like creative things as a kid. Like I actually thought I wanted to be like a writer first. I remember as a kid, like I'd have like a lot of journals, would try to like write stories and like poetry. So I feel like that was like my first like kind of creative love. Started in writing. And then I got like really into visual art for a while. And then I think finally, like as I got older, I kind of found this like convergence in music with like a lot of different interests. For instance, like my grandmother, she used to have like a piano just like around her house when I was a kid. So like whenever I go visit her, I would just like find myself like drawn to those items or like noodling on them. And I don't know, I liked it. It was really enjoyable. And then as far as like when I really started to get more into music and like more committed to it and not just like kind of like closeted as far as like playing it, I would probably say like sophomore year of high school. Like I'd always known that my grandfather like had been a musician and like he played in like a little blues band called the Chevelles. Like he was super into the industry and like booking and stuff like that. But I think when I was a kid, I was just so unaware. I was like, oh, that's a grandpa. He's cool. He wears a farmer hat and like has cows and like he was just like the farmer to me. But as I got older, like I discovered a lot more about him, and it was a little strange in the sense like when he passed away. Really, when I started like playing guitar and taking things more seriously, and it wasn't like planned. I was like, oh, I have to like do this to honor my family or like something weird like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it just felt natural because like I moved in with my grandmother at that point because like we didn't want her to be alone after he passed away, because that can obviously be really hard on a person. But being there with the guitars and stuff, I think it just kind of created an environment where I just like found myself playing a lot. I get home from school and I don't know, it's just like a really good outlet, and I enjoyed it a lot, and it's something I wanted to stick with.
Yeah. And so as far as like as you were starting to explore your musical interests and stuff, who were you listening to musically just for like inspiration?
Yeah, I think back in kind of like those like earlier like high school days, I would listen to like a lot of like kind of like classic rock. I don't know if like all like the big ones like the Fleetwoods, the Zeppelins, yeah, just kind of like a mixture of like 70s and 60s kind of like classic era rock. I feel like especially like learning guitar, like a lot of those songs like really just like lend themselves to the process. So I feel like by nature of that, you end up like kind of learning and getting into a lot of that music just because there's so much material like out there where you can like teach yourself and really educate yourself on music in that way.
Gotcha. And then you brought up your grandfather, and for the people that aren't really familiar with like the Texas music scene and everything that he did for Texas music in general, can you kind of explain who your grandfather is?
Yeah, so my grandpa's name was Charlie Hatchett, and that's how I got my stage name, Maddy Hatchett. It's in honor of him. But yeah, he was a booking agent here in Austin back in the 1970s. He owned the Hatchett Talent Agency, so he would book acts like ZZ Top, Christopher Cross, Don Henley of the Eagles. So really got his hands on and like had a lot of fun, meeting all of those bands. Obviously, like by the time I was born, like that kind of like era of like Austin music, like it changed, and he'd moved away from Austin by that point, but he had like a lot of cool like memorabilia and stories from booking around that time.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of, because you'd brought up your grandfather, and I know was very well known in the Austin and like Texas music in general. So I just wanted to make sure people that aren't from Texas or Austin just kind of know what that's all about. Yeah. So you're in Austin now. Are you originally from Austin, or where are you from originally?
Long story short, like, I was born in Texas. I moved like a lot between like Colorado and Ohio and Texas, like kind of on a circuit when I was a kid. I'm not a military brat. It was just like my dad's job. He would get like transferred like every year. Finally kind of like settled down a little bit in like North Texas around like Dallas. And then completed high school in Marble Falls, which is like the hill country region around Austin. But Austin was a place we'd always come visit. Like I have like family here. So I felt like even when I was like traveling around a lot, just like coming down to the Texas hill country and to Marble Falls was always kind of a part of my life, just because of like having relatives here and like trying to keep up with visiting them and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So Austin always kind of felt more home than anywhere else.
Yeah, Austin, and like I would kind of emphasize like even like the Texas hill country, especially like when you get to the outskirts of town and like kind of being in like the small like farm towns, that's what makes me like think of my childhood.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely understood. And then as far as your music, you started releasing music last year, but you'd been playing shows previously before that, correct?
Yeah. So I really didn't play out a lot until college. Like I was honestly like really awkward and shy in like high school, and like I just like had to like get over this hump of like kind of like performance anxiety. So I think it was just like a matter of like being like, hey, I really enjoy this, and I need to like kind of get over like this fear. That way I can like enjoy it with other people and like do the whole like band thing. So yeah, I had been playing like a little bit in high school, just like doing like the talent shows and like coffee shops, but like I said, really not until college did I begin to take it more seriously. I think the ironic thing is like when I started to get like really serious on the gigging side and like actually like getting stuff lined up, that's when like COVID hit. So like that kind of like, I feel like I'm having to like rebuild that momentum and like get back on the circuit of playing out. Cause like, I feel like that's one thing I want more of is just like playing out experience. Cause that's like such a vital piece of being an artist.
Yeah, absolutely. And you brought that up because I feel like there's a lot of musicians that were gearing up, like they were on the verge of something big, or they were just like really starting to gain momentum, and then COVID hit and they had to rethink their entire strategy on how to do things. And I mean, luckily well, not luckily for you, but you hadn't quite started releasing music yet, so you were still able to kind of fluctuate and work with stuff. How did COVID affect your release strategy? So your debut single was supposed to or released about a year ago. How did COVID kind of affect that release strategy? Were you looking to release it sooner, or?
I would say I already have that date planned out, but I think COVID gave me like the time to because I think like one thing is like, especially in the modern like age, because like when you're an independent artist, like it's hard to have a bunch of agents and people are who are like taking percents. So like when you're self-managed, you're going to wear a lot of hats, right? So that's like you're managing your own socials, all that jazz. So I think it, in a way, actually gave me a lot more time to kind of like work on like building that aspect up. Like I'd always kind of like enjoyed like the live side more than like building up the socials, but like I definitely acknowledge that like it's really important to have that presence, especially during like a pandemic when streaming and like YouTube and social media is like some of the only ways that you're able to reach people. So I think it gave me time that I like would have been too busy or like never had to work on creating like like videos and like release strategies and like all of this content that I just like never had time for before because I was so busy thinking about the next gig or like the next show and being ready in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of working on videos, let's go ahead and jump into your most recent music video that dropped on Friday. lately. First off, what's kind of the story behind the song in general?
Yeah, so that song, God, it's probably been like half a year, actually probably less than that since I written like recorded that. But yeah, I think it was just kind of like a reflection of like obviously like pandemic era and like some of the isolation you get around that and like just how like quiet and kind of like strange that can feel. But I also tried to keep the message like a little broader than that too, and just like make it more about like, hey, even when things got you down, like you have to acknowledge what you have versus like what you need. So like having just like those like basic like things met in your life and just like being able to appreciate that during a hard time. But yeah, I think it really just goes back to acknowledging like what you want versus like what you need, and being grateful for that.
Yeah. And you said you recorded it 6 months ago, or you started working on it 6 months ago?
I think I'd have to open up my calendar. I feel like I started getting the concept for it like 6 months ago. It may have been sooner though. Like honestly, like this year is such a blur. Like I can't remember like when dates are.
Yeah.
And then like so like last year was like my senior year of college, and that's when I like reached out to like a music video class and like the film department to like help with like video regards. But yeah, the song, yeah, I would honestly have to open my calendar. It's been a moment.
No, I completely understood. And so as for the music, or what was it like before we jump into the music video specifically, what was it like recording this song in the middle of a pandemic?
Yeah, so this song I think kind of like speaks to the nature of the situation. Like because it was a pandemic, it was really just like me and my guitar and like the engineer. He's kind of like a family friend. So definitely shout out to like the Machine Shop Studios in Dripping Springs. The engineer who I worked with was Julian Gargiulo. He's super talented. He has a band. But yeah, it was really just like the two of us. So like brought my guitar, brought my voice, and brought one up. It was just like my Fender Stratocaster and my Martin acoustic and vocals, and definitely like the most simple thing I recorded. Yeah, especially compared to the other stuff, which is like kind of like rockier.
Yeah. Wait, hey, sometimes you just need to slow it down and just make it not basic, simpler. There you go.
Yeah,
that's the word I was. And so about 6 months ago, you started working on the song. When did you start conceptualizing the idea for a music video? Was it always the thought that you'd do a music video for Lately, or?
That was kind of a luck of the draw. So like, I mean, obviously like music videos can be really expensive. So like I came up with the very, well, yeah, I'm like, okay, like I'm not like gonna like straight up pay for this. Like this is like, I'm like getting through college and I like need to like get my life straight. So like I wasn't about to drop like $5,000 on a music video or something. So I really just turned to like the resources within the college. There's a lot of like, student classes and stuff where like people are like looking for artists. We literally have like a music video production class. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go there and like pitch my music. And there was a student who was looking for an artist still. So was able to form, that relationship with her and work on the videos for Lately and for Rainy Days with her name is Moon.
Okay. And so did you shoot both of those videos like simultaneously, or were they just you knew you wanted to do those two music videos? So
yeah, so that was over the period of like I guess like a semester. So it was like during fall. Actually, wait, was it spring? I think it was spring. I don't remember. I think it was like last spring that I was filming with her, and it was like 2 different sessions. So like we like set up like a couple of days to film Rainy Days, and then we set up a few days. Actually, no, Lately was only filmed in a day, in like 4 hours. But yeah, definitely like want to give credit to the director Moon there, because like she really helped bring those songs to life. Because like all I really had to do is like pitch them to that class and just kind of like walk through like ideas with her, and she honestly is the one who breathed life into it. So like definitely want to acknowledge all the hard work she did there.
Awesome. Hey, it's always really good to have a good video producer as your friend or in your back pocket that can just always do it and do it well.
Yeah, she's actually in Korea now. She's an exchange student, so I can't really like see her like the way I used to, but
yeah,
it was a cool relationship.
Nice. That's awesome. And actually what's funny is what kind of threw me off a little bit was I was kind of last night I was looking through your YouTube channel, and you just released the audio version of Rainy Days on your YouTube channel. I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, no, let me go. And I went to go check your Spotify, and I was like, no, wait, what's going on here? So you had like just the audio that had just released on your YouTube channel, and then I went to your Spotify, and it had already been out.
Yeah, I uploaded that to YouTube a little bit later, just because I've been so busy, I hadn't gotten around to it.
Yeah, I got you. It just kind of threw me for a loop, because when I was looking through your music and just trying to get familiar with everything, since we just scheduled this yesterday, and it was like, oh, cool, she's doing like a double release. I've seen musicians do that before. And then I went to your Spotify just to kind of see what else you had released. And then I saw that Rainy Days was released like last month. So, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to like push out in phases, because if you push everything out at once, like you can actually like lose audience versus like having like reminders over time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that makes perfect sense, especially right now in this weird COVID world that we live in. Like there's so many different strategies that under normal circumstances wouldn't work, but they just seem to kind of work right now. And like maybe releasing a song on Spotify and then a month later releasing it on YouTube, maybe that's a very impactful way of doing it. Cause I know the audiences are kind of different, just as far as, like who's paying attention to what. So,
right.
So kind of what's the plan moving forward now that Lately's out, music videos out? What's kind of the plan moving forward?
Yeah, so there's going to be another live video coming out next Friday. That's October 8th, I believe. So it's just going to be like a live version of Lately that was like filmed down in Peace Park in Austin. And then really, I think over this kind of like late fall, winter, I want to hop back in the studio and get like another kind of like batch of songs out and ready. And, hopefully be able to turn around a video or two with those as well. So I think I'm kind of getting back into recording mode again, and, picking from like the songs I have written, like what I think I should go forward with. And then trying to work back into a place where I can get like some monthly gigs on the book. It's been a little weird just since like graduating and just like transitioning to like adult, like full on adult life, but just trying to get in the swing of things and really just get back on a good release and gigging schedule.
Absolutely. And then do you kind of see yourself staying in the singles realm, or do you see yourself eventually doing like a full EP or LP?
Yeah, I would definitely want to do that. I think I'd probably like release a few more singles first, or even if I had like released a longer body of work, such as an EP or an LP, like really these days because of streaming, it's better to like release like each single first and then go back and release the compilation, because when you release a full album, for instance, like the chances of people actually listening through every song is a lot lower versus if you release them one single at a time and then re-release later.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of a thing that I've stumbled across, especially right now during COVID. I've seen a lot of musicians that originally they were planning on doing like an EP and LP, but then COVID hit and they decided, oh, wait, we're not doing shows. So let's just break this off. And over the next 12 months, we'll release a song every month or every other month, like just what they had in the bankroll. So yeah, that's definitely an effective strategy right now. But then once you get back out there and you're playing live shows and you're out playing, I definitely think there's going to be something to be said about having that physical copy for people.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I think the goal would be like still like release them like one at a time, but ultimately have like that full compilation. So it's there on the merch table to sell as like the full body of work. But yeah, I think with streaming, like you really do have to push and like get value out of every song, or else unfortunately I've seen like a lot of artists, where they'll release an album, but like only one or two songs will get listened to. So it's really trying to make the most out of like all the work and all like, the money, blood, sweat, and tears you put into recording.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it goes back to the old thing about like when back in the day when all there was albums, CDs, cassettes. I'm old enough to remember cassettes and stuff like that. Yeah. But there was very few records that you would start from beginning to end and listen through the whole thing.
Right.
And so, like, I think now, especially with I don't want to say demand of the music business, that like it seems like now you have to look at a record and say any one of these 8, 10, 12 songs, they could be the lead single.
Right.
It's not fair because I don't know, but it just kind of seems like that's where the music business is right now. Like you have to have 8 to 12 songs that could be a lead single any day of the week.
Yeah, having a high volume of songs that you're putting out, like literally like bi-weekly, like yeah, to like push a lot of these algorithms, it does take like a very high release volume and like a lot of like marketing strategy to go behind that.
Mm-hmm. And did you, I know you weren't really actively doing music when your grandfather died, but had you picked up any like marketing strategies or anything from him? Or
No, it was a different era when he was in the business. That was like very much like going to in-person shows and like building the network that way. So I mean, as far as like marketing, nah. I mean, he was never that kind of guy anyways. He was always really just more about the relationships and getting the shows on the books and making sure that everything was like operationally set up. I feel like a lot of it's just been like self-education. I mean, it's funny because the internet is the reason, or like streaming and like kind of the modern world is like the reason that music is more or less free. Or like just like you don't get compensated the way you used to with like album sales. But I mean, the flip side of that is like I have like YouTube, I can like go and like educate myself on pretty much any topic I want. So I mean, that's pretty cool that you're able to go and like watch some like expert like marketer and just like do what they say.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, in the like just in general, like touching on something that you brought up about your grandfather about building the relationships and keeping those relationships alive. I think that's one thing that a lot of musicians kind of forget is still very important about the industry, because it's not what you know, but more or less who you know. Just like having those relationships and having a good work ethic and stuff like that, that'll get you. And I hate saying it this way because it sounds mean and, you know, all that stuff, but it's very much true because I've seen it firsthand that relationships and work ethic will get you a lot further than skill would. But if you have skill, it's that much better.
Yeah, you really do have to be like a business person and an artist. So definitely agree with you there. And yeah, I think the flip side of what's happening that I see, because like obviously it's so important to have like all the socials and all those channels, but the flip side where I kind of have to watch and be careful now is like you still have to have that in person like old fashioned like networking element that's working with everything else in your media.
Mm-hmm.
So you really you have to wear so many hats, you know?
Yeah. And you very much have to be your own PR agent. Like even if you have one, even if you're paying somebody to be your press person, you still have to be your own, because there could be that night that you're just enraged about something and you fire off a tweet and your career's over because
yeah, you do have to be really mindful. And God, yeah, I mean, I can't pay for PR right now. It's like, you know, $5,000 for somebody to go and email someone, but like you're paying for the connection. That's what you're paying for.
Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of moving towards live shows, have you been able to play live shows over the last few months, or is that still, because I know Austin, it seems like there's always live shows going on, but
yeah, it's been back around here. It's like people are coming out again. I played a show at the Creek in the Cave on East 7th Street on September 14th. That's the most recent gig that I've had. I did have one planned up in Dallas, but I had some like family stuff come up, so that one got canceled. But I'm talking with some bookers right now, just trying to work out some more gigs in the books. But it's like I said, like kind of in this like huge like transition moment in life as far as like starting like first like big girl job or whatever. So trying to be graceful with like balancing everything. I still have a lot of these goals. It's just like having the bandwidth as like one human being who is working a full-time job, like teaching themselves guitar and all trying to wear all of these hats while recording, while booking, while marketing, like just trying to take that a day at a time.
Yeah, I got you. Completely understood. You know, it's weird because it's like you think, oh, I get out of school, I'm going to have all this time. And then you realize, oh, I got to go get a job, or I'm going to be out on the street. Cool. That's 40 hours a week. Mm-hmm. Oh, I got to sleep. That's like, depending on who you are, that's another not 60, but we'll say 60. But, it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, well, when do I have time to do this? So.
Yeah, you really have to be mindful about scheduling ahead and making sure like sometimes like going overtime can obviously like be frustrating in that regards because you're like, damn, I really wanted to practice that night. So I think just being very mindful of time. I think I'm almost like mindful of it to a fault. Like it honestly gives me a lot of anxiety, but
yeah,
trying to be very strategic with the time that I do have. Cause like, I don't expect any handouts going around on this. So it's really how much work I'm able to put in and be diligent and strategic about.
Yeah. And weekends are going to become your best friend as far as
getting
working on your passion and your hobby and your music career. So
even in college, just like even like the volume of work I was doing then with like my major and stuff, like still was already struggling to have time then. So it's like different. It's like harder in a different way now. Like there's parts that are nicer because like I know when I'm free now versus like college, like you have like random assignments and stuff. So just kind of like similar, but like different.
Yeah, completely understood. What'd you go to school for?
I went to school for advertising. I actually went in as like a film major first. And then I was like, okay, well, I already want to do music on the side. So I don't want to be broke in two different regards. So I'm like, well, at least one of them's got to make money.
Yeah, completely understood. I went to school for film. And luckily when I went, they had just started and like as part of my degree, you had to get a minor in something outside of the communications building.
Oh yeah.
So me being the dumb person that I am, I was like, okay, because I transferred in. I went to Southern Illinois University and I had transferred in from a community college. And when they told me that, I was like, okay, what minor am I already closest to completing? They're like, well, you got a bunch of history classes, so you really should only have to do this and this and like take 2 or 3 more classes. I'm like, okay, perfect. Let's do that. And then little did I know history wasn't going to get me anywhere. So yeah, it was just like, all right, sweet. Now I'm just broke, period. So it is what it is. But then I kind of like I transitioned into advertising anyways, because I work for a TV station up here in Waco and I do promotion work. So that's kind of my thing.
Yeah. And I think I still like have that interest in like video and like visual arts still, but yeah, I think it's like, I had to realize like that artistic bandwidth, you do have to kind of eventually like choose and like make those decisions. So I mean, yeah, for me, it was just like a matter of like, hey, this is still going to help me like think about music and like how to strategize and market. And also like give me like the funding that I need to invest in albums, to invest in recording and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's the one thing that I wish I would have done. If I'd have known back in 2010 when I was in school that this is like the live and amplified thing was going to be a thing that I was investing a lot of time and money in, I would have probably taken like a business ethics or a business advertising class.
Yeah.
Which I did not. So, no, it's cool though. So as you're kind of working through balancing your music with your big girl job and all that fun stuff, when you do need to kind of escape and just take some Maddy time, what are some of your hobbies? What do you do to just kind of escape from everything?
I mean, to be honest, lately I literally haven't had I don't have downtime. If I did, I would like to I like nature stuff. I like going on hikes, being outdoors. I really enjoy that. And then doing some of the other hobbies I have, like like art, poetry. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I always end up going back to music anyways. So
yeah.
But yeah, like free time really has not been a thing.
Yeah, I completely understood about that one. So jumping back towards your music, then, do you see yourself? First off, what is kind of a live show? Is it more you doing solo acoustic stuff, or do you have a band around you? What does a live show look like for you right now?
So it depends on like the venue and the set and like what I'm going for. I have like acoustic sets, but I try to reach out to like musicians if I want like that fuller band sound. And a lot of the time, depending on the venue, it's like nice to have like a drum set behind you, like bass, another guitar and all of that. So just depending on the need of the venue and what I'm hoping to accomplish there, that kind of determines like the band situation.
Gotcha. So you have musicians that you'll have like certain musicians that you turn to, but it's not like a set band. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would like to get it set again, but like at the moment, I'm kind of back in like the networking boat on that regard. I used to have like a pretty solid band, but I made it with like a foreign exchange student from Germany.
Nice.
But he was such a good guitarist. I'm like, I don't care if you're leaving. I want you just like for this year to play in the band. But he moved back to Germany. My drummer is moving to California, so I'm really kind of like rebuilding again.
Okay, gotcha. Moving from Texas to California, that's kind of backwards, it seems like.
Yeah, it's usually they come to Austin and drive through.
That's been the crazy thing is everybody I've talked to so many people and they're asking me what Texas is all about. And I'm like, I live in Waco. We're kind of away from like all these hotbeds of places that people are moving, although Waco is very much its own hotbed where people probably are moving and I'm just not paying it close enough attention. But like as far as like Austin or Dallas or Houston, those seem to be like the three major hotbeds of places people are moving to. It's interesting. So
yeah.
But as far as moving forward, you're hopefully getting ready to go back into the studio. I'm going to start recording new music. Do you already know kind of what you want to record? Or are you still writing, or like where are you kind of at creatively as you prepare for that?
There's like a few songs that I know for sure I want to take in, but I think where I'm still strategizing is like, do I want it to be an EP? Do I want it to be like a few more singles? Because I think right now I've like been writing across this like a broad kind of like genre space, like as far as like Rainy Days is kind of jazzy, like Out of My Head is like 70s rock, and then like lately is like kind of country. So but I think that's the beauty of rock and roll. You don't really have to pick one thing. Yeah. But if I release a body of work, I do want it to feel like somewhat cohesive. So I think it's going and kind of like fine tuning and like picking the ones that like go together to take in as like a project.
Completely understood. And then as far as like writing and whatnot, what is kind of your process when you sit down to write?
I feel like it's different every time. Like I usually start like instrumentally and just kind of just see how it like flows together. I feel like with like at least like playing guitar and like music, like a lot of the time like you'll hear a phrase and you can almost hear like the notes that like rhyme with it. So it's almost like the music, like the notes, like not the words, but like the notes almost like rhyme with themselves. So kind of just, it's almost like a train of thought thing, just kind of like letting it like flow out. And then as far as like lyrics, sometimes they'll come like as I'm playing. But yeah, I usually start with instrumental first. Very rarely have I written a song lyrics first and then gone back and like added the music. Yeah. And I think that comes from like playing like violin in elementary school and like just like growing up with like kind of like starting off on guitar. I think that's kind of like where I'm founded in as being an instrumentalist. But as far as lyrics, like I always felt this way with poetry too. I feel like it's almost like it's already kind of written out there somewhere, and you kind of like access that, and then it just, I don't know, it feels natural.
Yeah. It's funny because it seemed to me the way my brain works, it's like, and just kind of having seen how a lot of creative processes unfold, it seems like starting with the instrumentation first seems to make the most sense. But over the last 6 months, I've seen a lot of musicians that start lyrics first, and like they'll have an idea for a chorus line or something, and then it'll just kind of birth from there, and then they kind of mold the instrumentation from there. And it's like, I mean, I can see how that works, but like just out of all the creative processes that I've seen unfold in front of me, like just attending jam sessions and somebody's playing a guitar riff or like a bass line or, like whatever, and it just kind of seems like that naturally pushes the creative juices, because it's like, oh, I've got a reference point. Now, what can I say, or what can I pull from the back of the writing log, so to speak, that'll go from there. So
yeah, I do kind of try to like keep up with like phrases or ideas sometimes, but yeah, I think like I have just like such a love for like playing the guitar and the instrument itself, that I usually find myself writing that way first. But there's been exceptions where like it's been lyrics or it's been like a combination.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're primarily a guitar player. What other instruments do you dabble in? I noticed on your YouTube you play a little ukulele, right? Yeah, uke.
Yeah. So the ukulele, like, I mean, I feel like the nice thing with string instruments is like the patterns like repeat on all of them. So like maybe I'm not like the best bassist, but
Yeah.
like I at least like understand like the patterns that transfer from the guitar because the bass is the bottom four strings of the guitar.
Mhm.
Obviously like my technique and stuff is probably like shit, but you know, it works. And then ukulele, I mean, same deal, like the patterns are there. And then I don't play violin a lot anymore. Like really that was like more of my life, like late elementary through like middle school. And then I like to get guitar better just like as a songwriting instrument because like I feel like writing like this, like you can't really sing that easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think anything with like strings, yeah, like I said, the patterns are there. So if you know how to find them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd mentioned earlier on in the first part of the podcast before my computer decided to die, that your grandparents had a piano. Did you play the piano at one point, or was that just kind of there?
That was like very on occasion. So like this is not like this is not my grandparents who like the booking agent. This is like my other grandparents.
Okay.
Like my grandma on that side, like she's a really good pianist and like she enjoys doing that. Surprisingly, like never took piano lessons or anything like that though. It was just like when I would go visit her on like holidays or like family stuff, I would be bored. So like I like go walk over to the piano and like noodle around. But I can like very like without any comprehensive understanding of what I'm doing, like kind of like sound things out, but like I want to call myself like a keyboardist or a pianist.
Yeah, I got you. But you just that was kind of your first first experience into like actual playing of the instruments was the piano, or did you start playing violin before you started noodling around on the piano?
I want to see like the noodling on the piano happen first, but it was so occasional. It was such like a every 6 months thing. Like it's I don't know like how meaningful.
It wasn't that meaningful to your musical career. It was just kind of something you did fun as a kid.
Yeah, my gosh, like she just like I don't know, she just like collects like a bunch of like weird like little instruments. Like I don't even know if she plays them herself. She just like has them, but there's like some like weird thing that I think is supposed to be some kind of like weird ukulele. There's like some like hand harp thing. So I think as a kid I was just like screw around on these things and just like see what I could do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say violin is like the well, my brother, he would have guitars in his room growing up too. So I like go and take them from his room and mess with that. But like I really didn't like I don't consider myself to have started playing guitar until like sophomore year of high school. Just because it was like once again, like in every like 3 months thing, maybe I like touch like my brother's guitar or something.
Yeah, I got you. Completely understood. I think grandparents in general were always like that, where they just had random instruments kind of laying around the house, whether it was just family heirlooms that were handed down. I know my grandpa had harmonicas just like randomly around the house. And then he had was it like a nose harp or something where it's like, I don't even know what it's called. I think it's called like a nose harp or something where it's, yeah, we'll just call it that because it's been so long since I've seen it, but it's one of those things where you just sit there and start playing it like it's like more of a bluegrassy sounding instrument. So, but yeah, no, I think that's kind of a common thread amongst a lot of grandparents where whether it's they had interest in it or it's just family heirlooms that get handed down. So,
right.
But yeah, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. Kind of moving forward, if people want to check out your music or anything of that nature, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, so I mean, really any of the platforms, Spotify, Apple, all that jazz. Have a YouTube channel. Yeah, I mean, just like any of the things you think of where you go to find music. I'm there under Maddy Hatchett.
Awesome. Are you still doing the like the covers that I've seen on your YouTube channel every so often, or is that kind of?
I like to do that on occasion. I think I'm trying to just like figure out like what works for a YouTube channel because like I feel like early 2000s YouTube like that was a thing. You could just like post covers. It's also just like a good exercise to like learn other people's music and like practice in that regard. So I think you'll see some more of those, but yeah, it goes back to the limited bandwidth right now. So it's like what content is most effective. So I'm trying to think about like Reels on Instagram, TikTok, because I like the YouTube, but I think it's a lot harder to get popular off covers than it was, like 10 years ago on YouTube or whatever. So it's finding out like what content works. And then if you see that works, making more content like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of been the thing that we've been struggling with is YouTube's in the same vein of Facebook as they've cracked down so much about what you can do there and not get in trouble. And then like what works, what's discoverable versus what isn't. It seems like it's always changing every 6 months. So completely agree. What's been your favorite social media platform?
I feel like where I've grown my music the most is like probably Instagram. Like I'm not like perfect at, like I haven't like mastered like these algorithms and stuff, but I feel like that's like where on average I feel like I've had the most success. And it's probably because it's like the only one I like put like more time into. Yeah, I used to go and like post for each one, but like I don't know, it's really time consuming. But I would say Instagram as far as music, just because it's like a visual platform. I think it's like more artistic on average, than the other platforms. But I think TikTok's like another good one to like really showcase art on.
Yeah.
So I think a mixture of like doing like Instagram and TikTok is a pretty good like strategy to push out music.
Yeah.
And then like use that to like aid your YouTube.
Yeah. Going back to your state, I said we were wrapping this up. We're probably going to go for another 20 minutes because you just opened up a whole can of worms. Going off what you were mentioning about creative bandwidth and stuff, that's the issue I have with TikTok, because it feels like with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and a lot of those platforms, you can kind of reuse and repurpose the same content. So you're not eating up as much creative bandwidth. Whereas TikTok, what works on everything else doesn't necessarily work on TikTok. So you have to create custom content just for one platform, which is kind of why I don't use TikTok all that much. I try and use it, but to no avail, I guess.
Right. It's definitely time consuming.
And you're actively on TikTok?
I wouldn't say very actively. I'm trying to get better about it because like I've seen it work for other artists around town. Like I've seen people like blow up I've seen people blow up their music videos to like 500,000 views or something, like using TikTok. So like it's definitely a thing and it works. But it's like you said, I just need to like learn a little bit more about like how to edit that content. Because like usually what I'll do is like I'll take a piece of a YouTube video and just like take like the best like 15 seconds of the performance and like stick it on there. But yeah, I'm trying to be careful too, because I feel like there's a trap in just like learning a bunch of little parts of one song, but then like you go to your live show and it's like, what do you have to show for that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I think TikTok just recently extended it, because it used to be like that 60-second.
Like several minutes now, I want to say.
Yeah, it's like 3 minutes now or something. So I think you're going to start seeing more people utilizing TikTok now, that especially in the music world, because not that all songs are 3 minutes or less, but if you could put a good chunk of the song in, whether it's a live performance or, whatever, and upload it, you're good. Like people are going to be more responsive to a 3-minute song or 3 minutes of a 5-minute song than they would be of 45 seconds of a 5-minute song, So, but yeah. So before I let you go here, I do want to ask you one question, and it's about motivating the young musicians out there. And still, since you're still very young in your recording career, I think you'll have a very fresh perspective of all this. But what advice do you have for the young musicians that are sitting out there and they're ready to make that next step, that first step, like whatever that it might be for them?
I would say just like, like evaluate your expectations, because I think we all have this dream of like, somebody like sees you on the street, like you get on the show and like you blow up. But the reality is like, you need to have like a lot of discipline and a lot of diligence, and also acknowledge like you could do all of these things and try everything right and maybe not like get that like crazy outcome you were hoping for. So I think it's like, you need to enjoy the process, because everything else is icing. Like you're not promised any of the end game. So if you're not enjoying like writing, making the music, playing, like doing the band, like all that stuff, like I would say like think about like why you want it, and acknowledge that like this is going to be a hard life, you know, like you're going to be touring and be away from people, you're going to have to like work after work, if you don't like have like some kind of like family, like people like throwing money at you, like you have to make it for yourself.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, be deliberate, like stay true to your purpose. I think it's also like a danger to like lie to yourself and like try to go into something else because like you feel like you can't be an artist. Like I think you might always like you might need to like supplement it with something else, but like never stop doing what you love.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then kind of piggybacking off that question, what keeps you motivated?
I would say just like enjoying playing so much. Like I like it feels so good to finish like writing a song and just like it's so like enjoyable to play the guitar. So I think that's what keeps me going. It's fun. Like I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one last question. What's one place that you really want to play that you haven't had a chance to play at, whether it be a city, state, venue?
I think it'd be really cool to play like at Antone's in Austin. That'd be a tight one.
Nice. And have you had a chance, have you had a chance to play outside of Texas at all? Or are you pretty much just...
No, I haven't played outside of Texas.
Okay, cool. That's, that would be really cool. Like, I'd really enjoy to see how your music's received in Nashville. That would be,
right.
Have you ever been to Nashville or?
I'm not. I mean, like I just like have never like through college like never had like the funds or like the time to travel like that. But yeah, I would love down the road to like kind of like see like who's listening in other cities and go visit those cities and play there.
Yeah, for sure. It's always been interesting because like once I started diving into more of the specific Texas music scene, and I'm not saying that your music's necessarily country, but it does have a country feel to it. So it could kind of play both sides of the fences if it wanted to. It's always interesting to see if there's like that rivalry between like Nashville and their traditional country versus Texas and their, what is it called? Red Dirt Country, right? Or is that just a specific?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like you got like the outlaw country, like Willie Nelson.
Yeah. Gotcha. But once again, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. It's been an absolute blast. Before we leave, hit them with the socials one more time.
Yeah, at Maddy Hatchett, Maddy, and then Hatchet like an axe.
Awesome. Once again, thank you so much for jumping on. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you guys later.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.